So, as I say, we're at NHS24 this morning. Good morning, guys. And I'm going to ask the people who agreed kindly to participate to introduce themselves first. So, Patricia, if we could start with you, if you could just tell us who you are and where you work.
Okay. Hi, I'm Patricia Clark. I'm from Care Scotland and I'm the Development and Training Manager.
Kevin?
Hi, I'm Kevin Geddes. I'm from the Health and Social Care Alliance Scotland.
Hi, I'm Gemma Teal. I'm a design researcher from the Institute of Design Innovation at Glasgow School of Art.
So quite a diverse group of people, and in some ways it's a kind of microcosm of co-production, isn't it? That you have lots of different people with different skills coming into it. So I suppose we should start at the beginning. And the first question we put down when we talked about this was, what does co-production mean to you? I know it's a big question, but if you could just draw on your own experience of it and how you feel it works, and give us a bit of an insight into that. I don't know who wants to start. Kevin, do you want to go?
Well, I start. I think for me, co-production is, I guess, as you said in the introduction, an approach. So it's a way of working with people who will ultimately use whatever you're trying to produce. So if it's a service or a resource or whatever it might be. So working with those people right from the beginning to not only find out what they would want to ultimately use it for, but how and help them to unlock some ideas, I guess, in how to design it.
Patricia, what do you think? Is that...
Yeah, much what Kevin says, really it's just about focusing on the person, focusing on the end user, I suppose, and what do they actually want, what's going to benefit them, and what's the best way to design and make something, create something, whatever it is, that's going to be good for them and work for them.
And from a design perspective, we're using much the same approach. We might use slightly different terms. We might call it co-design, and we might call what Patricia's just talked about people-centred design. But it has exactly the same ethos, and that is that people who use and who value services are the experts in how they would like to receive the services and how they'd like to participate.
That's a really important point, actually. Can I just pick up on that, the terminology? And we have lots of issues in technology and technology-enabled services about how we describe things. And when I was looking at some information around co-production, that I found myself tripping up a bit on that. Some people have said it's just really teamwork, isn't it? Isn't it just good teamwork? But other people tend to refer to co-design processes, and other people use different terminology again. Is it really just all the same thing we're talking about from your point of view?
I think it more or less is the same thing, but it's that what you just said there, I guess, the values that underpin it. So I guess for us from the voluntary sector, our value base is an asset-based approach. So really recognising, I guess, that people who will ultimately use services have got a huge knowledge and experience that isn't often brought into that discussion and that collaboration. So for us, that's the difference. So it is a genuine team from those people to us helping to facilitate design, to people who will be involved in delivering the service and professionals, all collectively working together very much on an even keel, really. So a genuine team, I would say.
So the next question we had, in thinking about this, was, well, in some ways you've answered it, who does it typically involve? So it's everybody, really. Is that fair to say? It's the service user, it potentially is service provider, practitioner, voluntary sector, carers, designers. In our case, might be technology suppliers, companies. Is that covered, or am I missing any?
No, it's about right. Yeah, I mean, really everyone needs to be involved because it is a collaborative process, with the kind of end user as the focus, or because they're the ones that are going to be using the end product or the end service. But yes, it's a collaborative process, and I think everyone needs to. That might be where things go a little bit difficult. Some people might have different opinions about what the end product is going to be, or different ideas, but really it's about working together and getting these ideas into one proper design that's functioning for the end user.
But while that sounds fantastic, and I don't think anybody would disagree with it, you know, you want to be collaborative, you want people to bring their own skills, whatever they might be, and it's all working towards a really positive, hopefully, outcome of a service that people recognise and want to use or a product. It's not easy to do that. Trying to get all those people around the table, for one thing, can be quite challenging. So I just thought it'd be useful if we could speak for a few minutes about the practical side of it. You know, how do you, we can think about what it is and what our intentions are, what the principles are, but how do you actually do it then? Do you advertise? Do you go around to community settings and try and recruit people in? How do you get people involved in that process?
I guess for us, we've been working together on one particular project called Living It Up. So it's maybe easier to use a tangible example to explain how we do it. So I guess from the recruitment perspective, it's best to go through trusted networks and to use local organisations and to bring in people who would be interested to do that. Certainly at Glasgow School of Art, we don't really get too involved in the recruitment because we see where the experts are in that, and they recruit people to come along to our co-design sessions.
And I think, you know, maybe for Patricia and I working more directly with organisations in the community, we have, I guess, access to a ready group of people who are really willing and able to come along. And I guess what we found during this particular collaboration and this particular project, the Living It Up project that Gemma mentioned, is that people are really keen to share their knowledge and experience and are really quite excited, I guess, at the prospect of coming to a co-design, a co-production session. And that includes professionals and technology partners too, who can really see, I guess, some of the value and the benefits of working in that collaborative way.
And I guess on top of that is that the message and how you word the invite or how you present the invite so that it seems something that people would want to come along to. So it's got to be welcoming and attractive, and it's got to send a message that their skills are what we're looking for, is that, you know, whatever they can bring to that session is what we are looking for.
And I think also when we talk about technology, and you're talking about technology-enabled services, products, looking at it from Carers UK perspective, that's how we developed jointly as well the app. We sat down with carers and actually they were our focus, and it was what do you want and what do you need, what's going to improve your lives. And it's a very simple tool, it's a very simple app, but it's what they wanted. It's been designed with them, helping them throughout the whole stages so that they've actually got something that they want, and it's technology which is going to help them on a day-to-day basis.
If we can just, there's a couple of points there. Living It Up is an innovation platform, or it's a web-based portal, or you can describe it in lots of different ways.
I guess it's interesting to hear your reflection of what Living It Up is, because that's what it is now, but that's not how we described it to people when we were trying to attract them to come along. So I guess we were looking for people who were a bit curious about what we were doing and trying to, you know, describe it in an interesting way and not say we're looking for you to help us design this platform. We're looking for your input, really, I guess, into designing something, and your experience is really valuable, I suppose, was the message that we were giving out. The way that you've described Living It Up as that platform and that portal for knowledge and information and sharing and finding other people is what it's become through people's input and experience. And it's great to take that back and say, look, what we've built with all the stuff that you've told us, but that's not the end point, but it's almost the end point. There's a huge journey before that of just people exploring with each other what's important to them, in their lives, in their communities, in their circles of care, I guess.
I mean, really the ideas that come from the community have really helped to shape Living It Up. I mean, they've been really, really useful, and because like Kevin said earlier, they're an asset, you know, they have the experience and the knowledge and the want of something that they're looking for that maybe doesn't exist. So I mean, they're a great resource, should I say, to actually tap into. which is, I think, one of the great benefits of co-design as well. So.
But I think it's maybe it's harder to understand if you haven't done this, because we tend to assume that service providers, whether they're health or social care, voluntary sector, or supplier company, technology companies, we tend to assume that they kind of come with a product ready-made in mind, or a service, and your involvement in it, this is in the traditional way model, that your involvement in it is as a quite passive receiver of information or a user of that service. So for me, what you're saying is what you ended up with, whether it's the Jointly app or whether it's Living It Up, all of that was quite open and until people designed it all the way through. I'm stating the obvious a bit, but not everybody's been through the process, so I think it's important to emphasise that. People might get a bit frightened and think this is all a bit messy and uncontrolled and where's it going to go?
I would definitely agree with that. I think at the beginning, some of the other partners within Living It Up did have quite a firm idea, or they had an expectation of what Living It Up would be. But I guess we were given permission to start at the beginning, start from scratch. What would the community like to see in Living It Up? And I think they all now agree that that was the right way to do it, and that what we've ended up with is very different from what they'd imagined, but it's a lot better than what they imagined.
Well, that's a fantastic thing, isn't it, to be able to do that, to have that. I'm sure it's not been easy.
Do you know, I don't think it's been easy for any of the partners, because one phrase that always sticks in my mind is that people said they almost had to suspend belief because they had these fixed ideas or maybe fixed ways of working which did work well and would have produced a certain kind of resource or product. But particularly this project and also the Jointly app too, I guess, is looking to do something different and to use innovation in a different way. So in order to do that, they've always kind of had to come on the journey with us and just believe that things are going to be better and different. It's great to look back and see that it is, but I guess that's our role, is to take them with us and join in, I guess, with everyone and make sure that it does happen.
And I think some of the approaches we've used and the tools that we've used to explore what it is the community want maybe have thrown them a little bit, because we tend to use quite creative approaches. We will kind of try and spark a bit of creativity and curiosity in members of the public. If they come along to a workshop that we do, they're going to have a lot of fun. They might not expect to do that in a normal kind of NHS session. You wouldn't be expecting to getting felt tips out and drawing and making what have we done so far?
People made films, and all sorts of things. Yeah.
We've had people acting. We've had them.
But it's been great, hasn't it? And they have really enjoyed it. And I think that's when you're dealing with, aside from your technical experts, your professional, when you're actually just dealing with people, members of the public, whether they're carers, patients, whoever they are, it's great. They're really very open to just having a good creative session, even though, like Gemma said, they might think, oh well, what am I going to bring to this? Actually, they bring loads of ideas that maybe they didn't even, they might say something and that actually sparks a really good idea or a good dialogue, and it's very creative, it's good fun. So we've slowly got the professionals, the technical partners, into our way of thinking. It's you can have fun and be creative at the same time.
And then I guess the next stage in that is to take some of these sparks of ideas and actually make something tangible with it. We can do that in a collaborative way, or we can take it away and process it and bring back visuals. So this is what we think this could look like. What do you think? And actually iteratively develop it with the community, so get feedback on what we've done and refine it. And that's been the process throughout Living It Up, and we've ended up with something that's it's a lot more rich and developed because of it.
So from an outsider point of view then, think of Living It Up, think of the Jointly app, what you actually see, the fields that are there on the screen to capture information in the Jointly app, the look, the feel of it, the way it moves through the different options. And similarly with Living It Up, what you see when you go to the website, the design, the descriptions, the wording, all of that that comes from that process then that you've described. Do you think if people are really interested in co-production and co-produced approach, do they need expertise to kind of guide them through it? Can anybody just do it? That's a challenging one, isn't it? Because you've obviously learned a tremendous amount going through the whole process. So unless we clone you and start shipping you out to people, is it something you just, if you go into it with an open mind and start at the beginning and, you know, with good principles and intentions, do you think you can do it, or do you need experts to come in?
I think what you've just said there is the key thing, and it's coming with an open mind, really. I guess the benefit that we bring to the sessions is that we haven't got ourselves any fixed ideas of what the end product or the resource might be, and I think sometimes if that's your job to produce that resource or that service, then you will naturally have some ideas yourself, and you almost have to leave them at the door when you have a co-production session, and just kind of go with it and see what people say, see what ideas people have, what's important to them, and things might look really different at the end of even a 1 or 2 hour session, and you have to feel comfortable with that, I guess, in order to do it. So I think that's the tricky thing. Without doing ourselves out of a job, you know, it'd be lovely if other people could do it too, but it's that kind of mindset of being creative, being open, being flexible. I think that's important.
And Living It Up, it's a 3-year project, and we're just entering year 3. And one of the aims of this year is to kind of communicate what we've been doing, the tools that we've used, and to make them available to people to try in their own field.
Is there anything else that you, from your own experiences of it, that you think, I had no idea that was going to happen, and that's turned out to be a really good plus or a side benefit, maybe? Maybe it wasn't one of the ones expressed at the beginning of the process. And Joe goes silent.
Kevin.
Well, do you know, one of the benefits that springs to my mind, I mean, you mentioned that sometimes it can take longer and it can be messy, but actually I think that the sessions produce things really quickly. So perhaps in a 1 or 2 hour workshop, we've ended up with 2 or 3 different kind of prototype resources, we would call them, and ideas that we can take away and shape up in the way that Gemma said. So you can really see something tangible in the session. It's not just lots of ideas floating around. People create things, build things, we mock them up in sessions. So it can be really quite a quick way, I guess, to actually see some results.
So is that a fear perhaps then, that it's going to be longer, it's going to take, you know, it's going to be messy and hard to control? Is that more of a fear than a reality, do you think? Or does it depend on who you're working with, perhaps?
I think it has sometimes been a bit of a, not a fear, but an apprehension maybe for particularly professionals to get involved, you know, like, oh, I'm so busy, and if you could just tell me what I need to do, I'll go off and do it. So that's, I guess, before they come to our sessions, but they too are having fun and seeing the results. So I guess people that have been through it are really keen to do it again and to keep using that approach, but a little bit of apprehension beforehand of, like, oh, is this really going to be beneficial for me, I guess.
Then I suppose when you pose the question, what would make your life easier as a professional, or what's missing, what kind of tool or service or something would really kind of benefit you, then they actually think, well, actually, and it can be quite a quick process. It can be a very quick idea where they all go, yeah, actually that's what's missing. That's the X spot that's missing. So it doesn't have to be messy, but you know, I suppose it's getting them engaged and thinking about it in a different way.
Another huge benefit has been some of the networking and some of the relationships between people who've come along to co-design sessions. I think I'm sure it sparked a lot of connections in the communities that we've been working in that have helped to spread the word. I think it's very powerful when you hear from the people and what they want to see. So sometimes how you capture that. So if you're trying to convince, you know, somebody senior that this is the way to go, then capture their imaginations with some of the voices of the people that you've heard from. So I think that would be one tip as to how to do that. And we've used video sometimes to sort of get that message across. We've used quotes, we've used I guess a whole range of different ways of sharing that
And you know, it still does bring challenges. You know, we find wonderful ways to capture, I guess, the essence of what people want and, you know, the things that are really important to them. But we're still faced with other partners saying, oh, but it's just 1,000 people that you've spoken to, not 1 million people. Where is your quantitative evidence, you know, that all this is happening? And that's not what we're about at all. So I guess some of the challenge is trying to explain that as well, and trying to help people understand that what we're doing is capturing a snapshot of what certain people say, but those people are reflective of the wider community or the wider professions or whatever. And we do test that out too, but it's not a scientific process, it's a creative and innovative process.
In terms of challenges, Patricia?
Yeah, I would probably say when you've got a bunch of people all working together, some people have very firm ideas, I suppose, of what they want to do or how they want to change a service. And it really is about kind of letting go of that and allowing the community or allowing the patients and other people to have a voice in that kind of process, because it's a process. It's not one person's idea. So it's really, I think that's a challenge, is actually having people kind of let go of their perceived or pre-perceived ideas of what they want to do, and actually just let it be a creative process and move from there.
Another, just to add to what you'd said, I think some people can take feedback and comments as criticism, especially if they're coming from the end users. They could take it that way, but really they're just raw ideas, and you know, there are ways of making it better. If you flip it, you've got fantastic resource there. So I think helping people to change their perspective on that is important.
Okay. On the final slide, we have a list of resources. The Scottish Co-Production Network obviously has loads of resources as well, some animation and various other things. I thought the Social Care Institute for Excellence work, there's a briefing there around co-production, which is very good, just very sort of straightforward. But we'll link a lot of these resources through the website and make the links alongside the webcast. Are there any other resources that you found really helpful, that you think, if you were a beginner particularly in this area, or just something that you read, or a description, or a toolkit or a model or whatever it might be, that you want to flag up to people? Or did you just go in and say, I'm going to give it a go, see what happens? I'll make it silence and then Joe will be editing.
Do you know, I think it's because we don't want to say we just went in and gave it a go, because we've got lots of experience and whatever behind us. Yeah. But I think it is something that can be quite difficult to capture in a toolkit and in a set of resources, because it's something a bit more fluid than that. And part of our challenge, I guess, is to try and create some of those resources and toolkits that other people can take and use. But I think the key thing is that people need to have that kind of openness and that approach to begin with. So there are lots of resources out there that people can choose to look at and use. And I think the Co-Production Network is a great place to start. But I think you're never really going to find the solution that you're looking for in a folder or something that you can download. It's a little bit more than that.
I know, because you're dealing with people and you never know what's going to come up. Like you say, it's not just reading off a script. That's just not. It's just not real life, I suppose. So.
Okay. Is there anything else you wanted to raise that we didn't get to? Well, I think we've covered most of our bullet points. No. Thank you very much for taking the time to participate. It's been great.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.